I noticed it on sight when I got back to my desk. There was a lunchbox in the trash can next to my desk. Not even I could remain silent. I asked, raising my voice, "Who did this? Who would act in this manner?" A close employee looked at me thoughtfully and didn't say anything. "Did I not tell you to? Eat your homemade meals outside, please. Nevertheless, you invite them inside." "I dumped it in the trash because it stinks," my boss Kent stated. My rage at Kent's remarks gave way to utter amazement. The person with whom I had an appointment showed up before I could even begin to consider how to explain this. "I apologize for breaking up your enjoyable chat, Lucas. Has the thing that was promised arrived?" The director, Roy, stood behind me and said, "I've been looking forward to it since this morning and worked hard. It's been a while." Kent quickly got to his feet when he saw Rai standing there. "Lucas is my name. I've spent 25 years working for this company. I had assumed that I had been working hard at one employer, yet I am still a regular employee because I lost the promotion race. However, I have no special complaints about my current life because I am surrounded by my loving daughter and supportive wife. If I could ask for anything more, it would be to get promoted so that I could support my family better and make more money, especially now that my daughter is attending college. Even while it's my hope, things don't usually work out that way in real life." It appears that my coworker Kent received the promotion, and as of April, I will report to him. As a new hire to the position, Kent treated us with humility during the first few months. But with time, his attitude started to shift. We were unable to keep up with him as he began to lord over us, openly disparaging and demeaning our character. Kent used to pick on younger workers, but lately he started acting aggressively toward me, a former drinking companion. "Hey Lucas, you know the materials are prepared for the meeting this afternoon?" "I have not yet seen the draft," he stated, sounding incredibly patronizing. I told Kent straight up, "No, I wasn't even informed there's a meeting this afternoon," in spite of how uneasy I felt. I now reported to Kent. Despite feeling self-conscious about what I had said, I gave Kent a courteous response. Immediately after I spoke, there was a huge noise. Kent had given him a desk kick. Then, his spittle flying, he yelled, "What are you talking about? The reason you remain a regular employee at your age is due to your poor task management skills. Just to be clear, listen. Today at 2:00 p.m., there will be a meeting to discuss modifications to future business performance. To increase productivity, you must suggest topics. By 1:00 p.m., you must have viewed the preliminary materials. Since individuals from many departments will also be present, it is essential. Make careful to finish it on schedule." I was taken aback by the unexpected outcry. I looked at the clock, which showed 9:00 a.m. Regardless of how quickly I worked, the paperwork would remain unfinished. I had to propose that Kent and I work on it together. Then he said something astounding. "All right, I'm depending on you. I'm going to have a smoke break and won't be returning for a bit," he replied, tucking a cigarette into his breast pocket and walking out of the room. "I need to recharge for the big job this afternoon." Although Kent had always taken lengthy cigarette breaks, they got significantly worse after he was promoted to manager and occasionally stopped during work hours. It was likely he would not return till noon on this day of all days. Upon seeing my pitiful image on the computer screen, I let out a heavy sigh. I worked frantically to compile the required information and produce a coherent, proposal-worthy document, despite its many flaws. It was time for lunch break by the time I managed to get it looking decent. I was very tired after working nonstop for hours on end. I felt my hunger together with a sense of relaxation. I looked through my luggage and realized that, of all days, I had forgotten my lunchbox. I had forgotten everything in the morning bustle. However, today was unique. A figure with bundles of items in its arms started to sprint toward me as I was anxiously waiting at the visitor's entrance. "Daddy, I apologize for keeping you waiting. Though it took longer than I anticipated, I'm still in time," right? I just had a lunch break, so everything is okay. I said, thank you very much. My daughter Katie was breathing heavily and was carrying the lunchbox. She began preparing her own lunches after enrolling in college. Could you make one for me too? I asked jokingly, and she nodded. Since then, I've been bringing her cooked lunches to work every day, and her cooking has really improved thanks to culinary classes. She was bringing a lunch from her cooking class today, which happened to fall on my lunch break. A recognizable voice caught my attention as I was about to head back to the office carrying the lunchbox in my backpack. Hello, and who might this be? Hello, Kent. I answered as Kent evaluated Katie and me after coming back after a lengthy cigarette break. I answered in a forced calm, disliking how he evaluated Katie. Never have the two of you met. This is Katie, my daughter, who just enrolled in college this year. Katie said, Hello. My father always says good things about you. Kent grinned the once he realized the woman in front of him was my daughter. You appear to be Lucas's daughter. I assume your dad is exhausted at home as well. Despite being slow at work, he usually always departs on schedule. Considering how poorly he's doing at work, I'm concerned that he won't be able to sleep. Katie looked away from Kent without saying anything, maybe too hurt to reply. I wanted to respond, but naturally I didn't have the guts because I'd never thought of myself as a skilled worker. Katie seemed to take offense at my lack of response and was feeling sorry for me, so Kent decided to take a different tack. By the way, I noticed you earlier getting something. What were you given? A lunchbox. My daughter made it and brought it for me, I said. Is that accurate? I've heard that as of late, you've been bringing homemade meals every day. I thus make this request. Kent waited for me to come. Would you mind having lunch outside going forward? To be honest, it stinks and is making work difficult. If it were just me, I could put up with it, but other workers have voiced similar complaints. I can't just disregard it as their manager, right? I apologize, but kindly. Kent muttered this while acting as though it was hard to speak. Clearly, the noise was turned down so Katie could hear. I apologize for the interruption. With a momentary facial contortion, Katie remarked, I'll be leaving now. I'll be walking away. She then bit her lip. It hurt me so much to see Katie's almost emotional face. She's normally such a vibrant person. Knowing that Kent was my supervisor, she must have held back. I was feeling even more pitiful. When I came home, I'd tell her that Kent's comments were unfounded lies. I let Kent in via the door after having that thinking. I set my luggage down at my desk and waited a bit. I was dying to open the lunchbox, but I couldn't eat quite yet because of an earlier appointment. I made the decision to go to the bathroom first, packed up my stuff, and left. After just a few minutes, they returned to find an astonishing scene. The lunchbox Katie had packed was in the trash can next to my desk, empty. Not the receptacle I often utilize. I had to say something. I asked, raising my voice, who did this? Who would act in this manner? My colleague looked at me thoughtfully without saying anything. It seemed like one of Kent's practical jokes. Why would you do this, Kent? It was really labor-intensive to make. This is excessive. I balled my fists and asked Kent a question. Too much, you say? Kent asked, seeming amused. That's where I stand. I told you to eat your cooked lunches outside, didn't I? But you allowed them inside. I was so shocked and infuriated by Kent's statements that I put it in the trash because it smelled. You're done, I declared. What? What do you mean by done, and who do you believe you're speaking to? Kent appeared to have reached a sudden agreement. In fact, that stench-filled, tasteless lunch was not something that belonged in the trash. I ought to have covered it with plastic wrap and newspaper. The spring onion omelette looks and smells awful. What a mistake I made, Kent exclaimed as he laughed aloud. The individual I had a meeting with showed up before I could come up with a suitable reply. I apologize for cutting into your enjoyable chat. Lucas, is this the item you promised? The director, Rai, stood behind me and said, I worked hard today. I've been looking forward to it since it's been a while. As soon as Kent saw Ree, he quickly got up. Hi, Ree. How are things doing for you? Why have you come here? Rai's presence seemed odd to Kent because they didn't typically work in the same room or even had lunch together. Well, I did have a gift for Lucas. I'll see him for lunch today as I promised. Why with Lucas? Kent gave himself a scratchy, humiliated expression. It's a long story, to be sure. Lucas, hurry up and let's head to the cafeteria. Regarding that, Rai, Kent gave me a frown as I started to talk. He must have been afraid of what I would say, but there was no way he could keep it a secret. Kent tossed one of my daughter's sandwiches that she had brought earlier into the trash. Not ideal, but I still have mine in my purse. Instead, would you mind eating that one? Ree's once calm countenance abruptly shifted as he took a quick look at the garbage container I indicated. He recognized the lunchbox and food there. Rai turned to face Kent and spoke seriously. Is what he said accurate, Kent? Did you handle his meal in this manner? Wait, Rai? Kent fumbled for an explanation. Lucas has been bringing his lunch every day, and the scent has been reported by multiple staff members. I'm not sure how his daughter does the preparations, but you get the idea. The other food is unfit for consumption, and the omelette with spring onions even has a bad stench. Rai, eating it would have been detrimental to your health. It's almost a blessing that it was discarded. Kent's ignorance caused his excuses to exacerbate the situation. Seething with rage, Rai spoke dignifiedly. What do you consider to be food? This is someone's lunch, even if it were yours. Something you make for someone else is infused with feelings you may not see. It is almost unbelievable to me that someone who lacks comprehension may devote their entire being to their task. I should reevaluate if promoting you to manager was the correct move. Kent shot up in protest, his face getting redder. Hold on. I'm proud of my work ethic and never let someone down. To compare this occurrence to my performance at work is ridiculous. In fact, I threw away the lunch to make the office a better place to work. It might have been a bad approach, and going forward, I'll be careful. But Lucas also needs direction on his unhygienic lunches. Reese seemed shocked that Kent was still trying to point the finger at me. Let me say this. It's impossible that Lucas's lunch was unsanitary or improperly made. How can you be so sure? Kent inclined forward, dubious of Ree's assurance. My wife teaches a culinary class that is attended by Katie, Lucas's daughter. My wife is certified in food safety and cleanliness, of course, and she made today's lunch there. Are you implying that my wife cooks incorrectly or handles things carelessly? It's also disappointing to disrespect the veggies we raise in our garden, Bry said, putting a pale flush on Kent's face. However, Kent retaliated, failing to learn his lesson. You're not saying, Rai, that I should be demoted and he should be promoted. I'll never forget this exchange of ideas combining personal and work-related issues in this way. I'll sue if it influences HR decisions, Ray firmly replied. Naturally, personal and professional problems are not combined. Now that we've covered this ground, let's summarize everything. Ree said, keeping things hidden won't satisfy anyone, before telling Kent about his own situation. Rai and his wife's relationship deteriorated as their child became a working adult and they spent more time together over unimportant issues. Ree tried to strengthen their marriage after ending the custom of cooking him handmade lunches every day because of small arguments. When Rai found out that his daughter took culinary classes, he urged Katie and me to ask to be taught how to pack lunches at that cooking class. I was going to pack 2 sandwiches and bring them to work. Katie was to inform Rai's wife that she would want to have lunch with me. She was to pack 1 meal for herself and Rai's wife for the other. I eagerly accepted this proposal, and Katie and I carried out the strategy. Originally, We were going to share the lunches that Katie and Ray's wife had brought. Kent snorted and replied, "I understand the situation," after hearing the account. "I understand your rage at the thoughtless disposal of the packed lunches, but you seem to be confusing personal with professional issues. For work effectiveness, it's crucial to keep some level of focus even during breaks. It's unbelievable that someone in a position of authority can't take their work seriously." Even at break time, Kent continued to criticize Rai and me without any remorse. Another worker came bustling over. "Ray, I have been trying to find you. I apologize for interrupting your break, but a manager is being demanded in response to a complaint. I've placed them on hold due to the seriousness of the allegation. A company like ours that values the community cannot afford to lose trust. Please take care of this. We need you to." Ray answered the phone and took care of the conversation after giving a quick explanation. He looked at me and Kent and apologized over the phone, his face growing glum as he heard. Ray appeared distressed, unsure of what had transpired. At last, the call was cut off. "What were you doing this morning?" Ray spoke with a lot of venom in his voice. My back straightened. "I was fully occupied making documents for this afternoon's performance improvement meeting, as instructed by Kent." "Why did you act in that way?" "That's what Kent does. Besides, the meeting is next week, not today. And I wanted to know where you were this morning," Ray explained. I breathed a sigh of relief when I realized the documents weren't needed today, and that I wasn't the target of the rage. Kent, on the other hand, was obviously perspiring. "I visited our clients this morning. Another crucial aspect of our work is fostering relationships with the neighborhood," Kent retorted. "It's peculiar," Ray muttered. Then he talked as though reprimanding a young offender. "You must tell the truth to me. What on earth were you up to this morning?" "I was out visiting our clients," Kent restated. "That's enough," Ray interrupted to give the phone call's explanation. "A person in our corporate vehicle was observed smoking in a non-smoking area, littering, and exiting a casino in a foul attitude. When someone pointed it out to them, they were chastised. Is this familiar to you?" Clearly concerned, Kent shook his head, dodging Ray's stare. "Well, the caller was able to recall the license plate and the face. The drive recorder would have captured their face, and the parking lot film allows us to identify who it was. It's interesting that they also brought up the brand of cigarette, which just so happens to match the one you have in your pocket. I'll go apologize since we don't yet know who it is." Even though it wasn't his fault, Ray apologized to me for the packed lunch situation and stated, "I'll find out who it was," before exiting the room. For a split second, Kent appeared as though he intended to stop Ray, but all he did was stand there, looking shocked. Kent was forced to confess after it was eventually established that he was the one in the casino and that he had seen the disc recorder tape. Sadly for Kent, the individual he had screamed at was a cherished customer, which meant that his behavior constituted a serious problem for the business. Not content with being demoted, Kent ultimately resigned, restoring harmony to the workplace. In the interim, HR noticed my constant work excellence and elevated me to manager. Convincing me that his influence had nothing to do with anything, Ray complimented me. In any case, I was even more driven at work. Ray invited me to his house to celebrate my promotion. Ray's freshly constructed mansion, which doubled as a culinary class location, was brimming with his wife's affection. I encouraged Katie to join me for the event, and the four of us, along with Rai and his spouse, assembled around the table. Considering Katie's outgoing personality, the evening was quite exciting. "Ray, this omelette is the best, isn't it?" Maybe because of the drink, Rai had a really positive attitude and his cheeks were rosy as he talked. "Nothing in the world tastes as good as this. The lucky guide who marries Katie will get to enjoy such delicious food every day." Does her father become upset when she says this? Ray laughed heartily, but Katie gave him a condescending look in return. "Oh, Ray, your wife prepared this omelette." You're incredibly fortunate to have such delectable meals every day. Are you serious? To be unable to detect my cooking's flavor? Ray's wife grinned and added, I'll have to bring your favorite omelette and a packed lunch again starting tomorrow. We both grinned at Ray's delighted wife, Rye, and me. It's possible that Katie didn't notice, but Rye could definitely identify his wife's omelette. Ray's wife cooked this omelette with green onions, which I detest, but he loves it. Ray, how about we swap our packed lunches tomorrow? I recommended. In an attempt to conceal his humiliation, Rye said, No, I adore my wife's lunchboxes more than anything, in response to my suggestion. I'll stick to my own, even though it's a wonderful offer. I recalled Ray's expression upon realizing his beloved omelette had been tossed into the garbage. It's difficult to imagine how furious he was at the time. Ray's expression before then was nothing like it was now. Furthermore, a kind expression was on the faces of all